Hey guys, what's up? Plastic Guy here, coming back with another figure review, and today we're taking a look at these 3 bootleg AliExpress knockoff action figures. We've got the amazing Yamaguchi Revoltech version 2 Deadpool, the Mafex Deadpool, and the Sentinel Miles Morales knockoff action figures. The reason I've got all 3 of these in front of me right now is because I wanted to pick up the version 2 Revoltech knockoff. We took a look at the legitimate Deadpool version 2 Revoltech figure here on the channel, and I will take a closer look at that later on in this video when we compare him to this bootleg here. I absolutely love the look of this version 2 Revoltech Deadpool. I think it is one of the best looking 6-inch Deadpool figures you can get. The accessories are absolutely spot on and the articulation is insane, but I have a huge problem with my legitimate version. Just the worst QC issues. With the slightest movement, the legs just pop straight off. The accessories can be really annoying as well with popping off, but it's really all to do with the legs. I mean, I'm talking really light posing, the legs come straight off, and it makes for the most frustrating experience, especially because it is such an expensive figure. And so when I was going through Instagram, going through TikTok, I saw a few folk posting about this knockoff AliExpress Revoltech Deadpool, and at first I didn't even realise it was a knockoff. It looked really good. So I thought to myself, if I could pick up the Deadpool from AliExpress for pretty cheap and it looked the part, then hopefully I could pose it around and have a lot of fun with it, and I wouldn't need to worry about the bits and legs popping off all the time, because once again I do love the look of this Deadpool, but I really just couldn't keep on posing my real version. And so I hopped on over to AliExpress, and sure enough there it was for around £15, and I added it straight to the cart. And while I was there looking at that figure, I came across the Mafex Deadpool figure. I've not actually seen anything on this Mafex Deadpool, the original real version, or this knockoff, but I couldn't pass up picking up another Deadpool. It was around $10, so I just added it to the cart as well, and then the Sentinel Miles Morales was calling my name. I do have the Sentinel Peter B. Parker figure. Once again, we took a closer look at that here on the channel, and I love that figure. It is excellent, and I think from what I've seen of the Miles Morales figure, it's even better. The interchangeable parts on that piece are like no other figure. But I just wasn't really willing to splash so much cash on that original legitimate version, and it is sold out everywhere at the moment as well. Maybe if they do a release in the future, I will plan on picking it up. But while I was on AliExpress and it was there for dead cheap, once again just added it to the cart, and so all 3 have arrived, and I definitely want to take a closer look at these on the channel and see what they're up to. So with that being said, let's not wait any longer, let's take a closer look at these AliExpress knockoffs. So let's start our video on this Sentinel Miles Morales from AliExpress. I will say previously on the channel we've taken a closer look at 2 or 3 knockoffs. I only really have 2 or 3 in the collection, not including these 3 new ones, and they would be the Mafex Spider-Man, which was alright, definitely extremely inferior compared to the legitimate versions. We took a look at the knockoff PS4 Marvel Legends Spider-Man figure, which I will say is actually surprisingly good, and also the knockoff Toy Biz McFarlane Spider-Man figure, which was okay. I've since got my hands on the legit version and it is way better. So yeah, we've had a good run with knockoffs so far, but I'm interested to see how much better these new ones are. And the reason I actually started saying this is because when you go onto AliExpress and you buy these knockoff figures, you do have the option to get them in box, or, well, I don't really know what the loose version would be like, but I always choose in box just because I feel it's going to have that extra protection in transit, especially because they are getting shipped worldwide. With every one of these figures, the boxes arrived in a horrible condition. They are bashed up, so do beware if you are choosing the in-box option. Your box isn't going to be in good condition, from my experience anyway. But the box artwork is actually pretty accurate from what I can tell. I mean, this looks like a Sentinel box. Of course, we've got the artwork here from Into the Spider-Verse. Good images. You have wee gaps where you can see the figure and the accessories and things. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse up the top, and then this image on the back. Not sure, yeah, we've got some more images on the sides here, and they're actually all pretty cool, and I'm presuming they're all of the legit figure that they've bumped from somewhere. Just for a quick comparison, here is our real deal Peter B. Parker, and yeah, boxes are of course very similar. I do feel like the real deal version is a lot more vibrant though. Yeah, let's get the figure out of the packaging. So first of all, taking a closer look at what this figure comes with, we get this flight stand, and I will say this seems pretty decent. Yeah, just exactly what you'd expect from a knockoff flight stand. It does have screws here that you could probably tighten it up a wee bit, but it seems fairly sturdy. It is a wee bit loose for my liking, but yeah, decent flight stand for sure. We then get these interchangeable whipping hands, which look pretty good. You know, they've got some nice painted web lines and things on them, and they do have ports there for web lines. Now these web lines are very similar to the Peter B. Parker ones, same idea with the whipping hands, but I was surprised with that Peter B. Parker that these whip effects couldn't be removed from the hands. With this knockoff Miles they can be, but I'm reckon that's just to do with quality control more than actually be removable, you know. So I don't know if this will be the case in all the fakes, but yeah, I can take these whipping effects off and on the whipping hands, and I do actually prefer that over them just permanently being ported into the whipping hands on the likes of the real deal Peter B. Parker. Now I won't really be showing these off much more than right now, but these are laces for the shoes. I just can't really figure out how they work, and there's no instructions with this knockoff. I'm presuming there are instructions with the real version, similar to other import figures and stuff, but we get those loose laces and then also these wee bits here, and yeah, I do like the look of them. I think they'll look good on the shoes, but as I said, I'm not too sure how they port on there, and I'm happy enough with them not being on the shoes at the moment for all the hassle that it's worth anyway. We then get this longer web line, which is actually pretty nice translucent plastic and nice sculpt to it for sure. It's got a wee bend at the end, and that's what the other side looks like there. And then lastly, from this compartment of the figure, we have this tiny little smartphone, which is essentially just a black rectangle, and these headphones, which actually look pretty nice. We've got some different colours on them, some brown on the outside, grey on the top, and yeah, sculpted pretty well. Jumping over to the other compartment of the figure, we get this mallet, which is really nicely painted. I love the different browns on here, and the sculpt is really nice. So I think they've pulled off copying the legit version of the mallet here, and I think that's pretty impressive. Looks really slick. We then get the Jordans, which I am a huge fan of. I do have the Miles Morales Marvel Legends from Into the Spider-Verse, which features shoes similar to this, and I just think Miles looks so cool in them. So I'm really happy to get this knockoff with these interchangeable options. It's going to look awesome on camera, and I think, you know, despite not having the Nike logo, you could definitely just add one with a bit of Sharpie if you're confident enough. Maybe I'll try that at some point, but the paint's not too bad. It is a wee bit sloppy, of course. You can see there is some sloppiness here, but I think that is to be expected throughout this figure. For the most part, I'm pretty impressed with it, and I think these do look good. So yeah, we get these interchangeable shoes, and they're not bad at all. Going back to the laces, you can kind of see that they go on there somewhere, but as I said, I'm not too bothered about figuring it out right now. We then get these interchangeable shorts, which once again look pretty good. They're posable, and you basically mess around with the figure a wee bit, take it apart, and you can put these on instead of the legs that he has on at the moment. I would like to show this off in a video at some point, but looking at 3 of these knockoff figures in one video, it would be more than like an hour and a half long if I was to mess around with all the interchangeable parts on this figure alone. So please hop on over to my Instagram if you want to see Miles sporting these shorts, the jackets and the different arms and things. It can be done, and it is pretty easy. I feel like the plastic is a good enough quality that I don't feel like it's really going to break on me. Everything does port together well, like the original would. Yeah, I don't know, I've taken my time porting these interchangeable parts on, and I've not had any problems. I think the jacket looks a bit sloppy for sure. You can see it's not really glued together as well as it should be up at the top, and these wee hoodie strings, they look kind of bad, they look very flimsy. But when it's ported onto the figure and you have the arms and everything, it does come together pretty well. And I thought that I was surprised that this was the quality of this knockoff. I thought all these interchangeable parts would be pretty redundant. I didn't think they would work. I didn't think that they would hold together as well as they did, or port on as well as they do. But I can assure you that it works well. All these interchangeable parts work as they should, and you can have these different looks to Miles. These are his different arms, so for the jacket you would put these arms instead of his Spidey costume. And yeah, they're nicely sculpted, good paint on them and everything. Once again, they work, which I'm just surprised with. I didn't think they would work as well as they do. When you put all these interchangeable parts on, it looks like another Miles Morales figure, and that's definitely a lot more than I was expecting for a knockoff AliExpress bootleg. But these are the hoodie parts. You can have his hood up or just relaxed, dripping down the back of the jacket. And that's really it for the interchangeable parts. We then get all these interchangeable hands. We get these sort of fisted hands that you could port the mallet into, or a web effect. These more sprawled out wall crawling hands, which look pretty nice, nicely sculpted. We've got the web lines on them. Even more sprawled out hands, which I think are good for like an in-air pose. I have interchanged these hands about and they all port in pretty well and they look pretty good on the figure. These loose, more relaxed hands. A relaxed hand for the right arm, and another really cool interchangeable part for this figure, a hand holding the spray can. That is sick. I love it. I love the look of this. Sculpted really nicely for the knockoff, and yeah, you still get the web lines and everything. Good paint on it. Cannot complain. And then finally we get the figure itself. And it comes with 2 interchangeable heads, or 3 interchangeable heads, including the one that he has on here. Taking a look at the standard masked version first. Yeah, not the best. This eye on the right is just slightly off, or maybe it's the one on the left, I don't know. One of these eyes is just slightly off. And it ruins the whole head sculpt for me. It just looks too goofy, which is fine. You know, I was expecting that for a bootleg. It's not the worst. I mean, it could definitely be a lot more worse. The paint application's there, you can see all the web lines, and it's not really sloppy or anything in the eyes. It's just the positioning of the lenses that really kind of ruin it a wee bit. But it's made up with the other 2, because here is the Miles Morales unmasked head sculpt. And I'm really surprised at how good this one is. It's not the best, you know, it's not to the same quality as the original would be, but it's definitely a lot better than I thought it would be. Going back to like the Mafex knockoff Spider-Man figure, the alternative head is really how you can tell for sure that it is a knockoff. The alt Peter Parker head is ridiculously bad. This one is nowhere near on that level. You can see the eyes, the expressive eyebrows, the hair sculpted really nicely, and it's all painted pretty well. I'm really stoked on this head sculpt, and I would say it's probably my favourite out of the 3, and I would definitely, this would be my go-to head sculpt when posing this figure around, especially it being the bootleg. I think this one allows the bootleg to be more of a payoff, if you know what I mean. But then taking a closer look at the head sculpt on the figure itself, this one is another really good option. I think the lenses are positioned really nicely here. It's just a shame that the paint isn't as good as the goofy one. You can see that the white in the eye is a bit speckled and it's not really complete, but everything else on the head sculpt's done really nicely. It's just that one lens, so you could maybe touch it up with a Sharpie or a bit of paint, whatnot, and it would make it a wee bit better. But I think overall, this is another really good head sculpt. So 2 out of the 3 isn't bad at all. It's just a wee bit more annoying that this one's more expressive. The neutral one would have been preferred to have been the better one. You'd get a lot more poses out of it, I guess, because this one would have to be kind of specific, maybe not, who knows. The rest of the figure though looks pretty great. I mean, I am really surprised at how good this is. I was expecting pretty crap, to be honest, you know, for about £10, and with how much is going on with this figure, I thought there was no way that the bootleggers would be able to pull it off, but I have to say they've done a pretty good job. I mean, all the web lines seem pretty accurate. There's texturing all the way through this figure. all the way down to the feet, all the articulations there. I've posed this thing around already. It's a lot of fun. It's sturdy, it's not flimsy. All the joint, well, that one is a wee bit loose, but I mean, all the joints are pretty stiff. Yeah, I really don't have much complaints, apart from what, you know, I've already touched on. This thing looks great. I mean, the back logo there looks spot on. I am so stoked on this. I really am, especially for the price point. I'm happy to have this bootleg in the collection. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm never going to like try and pass this off as the legit version. I'm happy saying that this is the bootleg with the quality that it comes with. Yeah, really no complaints, and I would definitely recommend picking it up if you were on the fence, you know, if you don't have the legit version and you're picking up bootlegs, whatnot. This is a good one to get your hands on, definitely no complaints. Let's put him next to Peter B. Parker and see how he kind of scales. He is a smaller figure, so that is something, but you'll see how he looks next to Peter B. Parker. So here is our AliExpress knockoff Miles Morales Sentinel figure next to the real deal legitimate Peter B. Parker Sentinel figure. And I have to say, with this head sculpt on, having them standing next to each other, I think the knockoff fits in pretty well next to our real deal here. Of course the legitimate one would look better overall, but I'm happy with what I'm seeing here. There are knockoffs of the Peter B. Parker as well, but from what I've seen, I'm not too bothered on it. The neck looks pretty dodgy overall, and it kind of puts the whole figure out of proportion for me. And of course I have the real one anyway, so not too bothered with picking the knockoff up. But yeah, I can't complain with this, especially when you consider that this figure on the left is around the £100 price mark, and this one on the right was a tenner. Moving on, we've got our AliExpress Mafex Deadpool action figure, and what's interesting about this one is there are actually no Mafex logos on this box. With the other knockoffs, they do just straight up rip off the original logos and whatnot, for example Amazing Yamaguchi here. But with the Mafex one, yeah, there are no original logos here, but they have ripped off the rest of the packaging, so yeah, I don't know what they really have to gain. Maybe Mafex actually reached out, who knows, but we do get Deadpool up at the top. I really like the colours of this box. As I said, it is very similar to the original from what I can tell. We get this picture of the figure at the bottom, Deadpool, something art version action figure number 82. You can see the figure there. Got this side of the packaging, and we get the back of the packaging here. Lots of fantastic images of the figure. Of course, these will be the legit version again, and then the other side of the box there. Let's get our knockoff out of the packaging. Once again, we get a flight stand with our knockoff Deadpool here. I'm going to keep it in the packaging. I don't really need any other flight stands. I do see people on TikTok, Instagram asking people where they get their flight stands. If you're interested, I just get the most basic I can find on the likes of eBay and Amazon. They've always worked really well for me, and you normally get like 10 to 15 for X amount. It's normally like a 10 or whatnot, maybe even more than that. I will say, picking up knockoff figures, probably a pretty easy and cheap way to get yourself some flight stands. So here is our not Mafex Deadpool out of the packaging, and he's looking pretty damn good so far. He comes with loads of interchangeable hands, so let's try and run through all of them just now. I don't know what this pose is called. It is one of my favourite emojis, I use it all the time, and it's really cool to see this in figure form. Porting these onto Deadpool is going to be a lot of fun. We then get these slightly more relaxed, loose, open hands here. Thumbs up hands, or thumbs down. Open waving hands, gun holding hands, fisted hands, and pointing finger gun hands. And yeah, I know this is the knockoff, and I'm not praising the knockoff for this at all, but I do love this selection of hands. I mean, Mafex really nailed it with these Deadpool hands. I have just seen in the box as well, we get these, the top of the sword, so I'm guessing that will port into the sword sheath here. Yeah, that looks pretty cool. Let's see. Yeah, I like that. That looks pretty good, and of course you can take them out when you put a sword in the hand, and that will line up pretty well. Yeah, I like the look of that. The gun, while we're on it, the sword holster here, really nicely sculpted. It's nice and sturdy again. Like, once I was surprised with the quality of the plastic on all three of these. I thought it was going to feel really cheap, but honestly they don't feel bad at all, and you can see the sculpts held up on all these different parts here. Yeah, sculpt's really good, paint's really good. Surprising for a knockoff for sure. And last but not least in the box, we have these interchangeable parts for the belt. If I can get it out here. We get a very angry looking disc bit, which you can see will interchange with this bit here, but so it's like that but in red. And then we get a more classic looking one. I think this is more kind of traditional Deadpool. I don't know, my favourite's probably either this one or the one that's ported on at the moment, so that just comes off and on. And I will say, once again, similar to the Sentinel Miles Morales figure, I'm surprised that the bootleggers have done such a good job when there is so much going on with these original imports, with all the wee interchangeable parts and accessories, hands, heads. I would think the bootleggers would slip up, but yeah, I have to say I'm surprised with how well it's going so far, touch wood. We start to look at the swords here, but yeah, nothing to complain about. I really like the shiny metal effect here on the blade, and then the handles are the same as what we've seen porting into the holsters there. Good colours, good sculpt, good swords. Yeah, I'm happy to get these for sure. It is weird that we don't get any guns, but we do get the gun hands. That does seem to be a recurring theme with Deadpool. We looked at the SHF movie Deadpool figure here on the channel, and yeah, gun holding hands but no guns. It's always a bit of a letdown when we don't get a full arsenal with our Deadpool figure, but when you're only paying $10 for the fake, yeah, you're really you're not getting too hung up on it, I suppose. So once again, with this knockoff, we have three interchangeable heads. We have one with the slightly more closed eyes ported onto the figure at the moment. We then have the more neutral head sculpt with the kind of normal looking eyes, and we have this one with one eye shut and one eye open. And these are all sculpted really nicely. Paint is not sloppy at all, it's pretty spot on. I really like the wee dip at the back of the head sculpts. Yeah, definitely no complaints. They all port on and off fairly well, and once again I'm just surprised at how well they have managed to copy the original this time around with this one and the Miles Morales so far. The figure itself, this one definitely has looser joints, especially in the legs. These are pretty loose and it is harder to hold a pose. You can see, yeah, the legs are probably the worst. The upper body's not too bad. The arms are actually fine. The arms feel pretty good and they are very poseable. You can see these pouches are movable as well. But yeah, it can be frustrating trying to get the legs to stay in a position when you're posing this thing around, but it can be done. I have already posed this figure around. I've had fun with it. It isn't very frustrating, but it's definitely worth noting that the joints in this figure are a lot more loose than the other two knockoffs that we're taking a look at here in this video. But overall, I mean, the look of this figure, I think it's pretty seamless. You know, it's not too disjointed. It comes together all fairly well. You might have to play around with it a wee bit when you get it out of box just to make sure it is looking all seamless. But I'm really happy with the overall look of it. I'm happy with the articulation and the posability. It is just a case that the legs on this one are kind of loose. But once again, when you're only paying around a tenner, can you really complain? I'm happy with it for sure. The back looks a wee bit bare, but I suppose you do have the sword holder to put on there. And yeah, I'll quickly put them next to a Marvel Legends and we can see what the sort of size difference is. So here is our knockoff Mafex Deadpool next to the Marvel Legends Sasquatch Build-A-Figure Wave Deadpool, and we can see that they're standing around the same height. The Mafex is just a tad taller, but I think it will scale fairly well with your other Marvel Legends figures. And yeah, once again, I'm really chuffed with this knockoff, man. For $10 you cannot complain at all. Paint's there, the sculpt's there, all the interchangeable parts are pretty great, everything looks good. The only downside to this knockoff is that the joints are slightly loose. And then last but definitely not least is our version 2 Revoltech Amazing Yamaguchi knockoff AliExpress Deadpool figure. Now when we took a look at the legitimate version, I spoke in that video about the different packaging. We do have the more premium, newer packaging with my legitimate Revoltech Deadpool version, and I have to say I do like both of these packages. I think both work really well, especially for Deadpool. I think the older style Amazing Yamaguchi, in your face comic artwork works really well here, but I do like the more premium look as well, so I think a lot of folk will have their own personal preferences, but I like both. Now, as I said before in the video, choosing the inbox option with your knockoff AliExpress figure doesn't mean your box is going to come in good condition, because this is battered up, man. It is totally mashed, and I actually think there was a weird thing with this one. I think the outer packaging here was flattened and just sellotaped to the plastic. Yeah, I don't know, but I put it back together as best as I could, and yeah, this is how it is. I do like the original artwork on the legitimate version, as I said, and I think the bootleggers here have done a good job of replicating that. I do like the look off the back here especially. Look at all that madness going on. But yeah, let's get our figure out of the box. So once again, with our knockoff, we do get this flight stand, but once again, don't need it, just going to keep it in the packaging, so I'm going to set that aside. We get this compartment here with our two knives, knife holders, dynamite, smartphone, interchangeable eyes, and then this bit here is for the sword holder on his back. You can port the wee bits in that. I'm not going to run over all the accessories on this knockoff because they are just the exact same as the legitimate version, in which we've already taken a closer look at here on the channel, so it would just be pointless going over them all again. But we get our two sai, two swords, sword holders, guns, gun holders, knives, and all the interchangeable hands, and trust me, they have done such a good job in replicating them once again. Same as the Mafex one, same as the Miles Morales Sentinel, this Amazing Yamaguchi Revoltech knockoff is surprisingly good. So we get 4 interchangeable heads this time around. We get the love heart eyes head, and we droop at the back. I think the love hearts and everything are nicely sculpted, well painted. It could be a tad better, but definitely not bad at all. We then get this one with the wide open surprised eyes, and is this the one? Yeah, I think that's the one you can interchange the eyes, so you just put your wee sticky thing in there, pop them out, and you can swap the lenses around. So the wide eyes are in at the moment. You can see there is a wee bit of a sloppy paint application there on his left eye, but nothing terrible. You could probably fill that in with a Sharpie. And then you have this one here with the more smaller eyes. He's looking a wee bit more concerned, and yeah, it looks like you could probably put them in and out as well. You can see the back of the lenses there. So there's our 3 head sculpts, as well as the one that's ported on here, and the figure itself just standing here, honestly I wouldn't be able to tell you that this is a knockoff straight away anyway. I think looking at it, the joints do look a wee bit overexposed. We can take a closer look at that when we compare them to the real version, but the biggest letaway with this one is the paint. The paint just isn't as good, it's not as dynamic, it doesn't have as much tones running throughout it, but it's not bad at all. Starting with the head sculpt here, I think this is really accurate to the original. Definitely not got any complaints at all. The sculpt is spot on. You've got all the sculpted detail running through the figure, but when we look at the legitimate version, there is more paint application running through this, so that is probably the biggest tell. But once again, when it's just standing there, you really don't notice it straight away. At the top of the leg here, you can see some of the paint application isn't great. It's a bit faded up the top here. You've got the movable belt here. And yeah, I've already posed this thing around, so I mean all the articulation is there, and guess what? His leg does not pop off at all. So I have had a lot of fun with this knockoff so far. I've been able to get him in poses that I wasn't able to get the legitimate version into, which is just crazy to say when you're comparing a £100 figure to a £15 AliExpress knockoff. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's mad that I'm actually able to pose this around better than the original, but I suppose you do pay for it when it comes to the paint. Once again, all the accessories are there, and I didn't want to waste too much time running over them again, but for example the swords here, if we take a closer look at them, there really isn't anything letting away that this is a knockoff on these. The paint is spot on, sculpt's really good. You couldn't ask for anything more. Like, these look great. And then we'll just grab a couple of guns as well, or we'll go one knife, one sword. We've got the more jagged, bigger knife here. Great paint, great sculpt. They've replicated it pretty much spot on there. And then you've got the gun here. These look so accurate to the original. Honestly, I'm mind blown. It is crazy for the cheap price that you're paying, that the quality is up there. So yeah, I'm really impressed so far. I've posed this around, I've had all the interchangeable parts on there, and I've really not had any problems. Once again, just the biggest letdown with this is the slight paint application issues. And with that being said, let's bring in the real version. So here is our fake AliExpress version next to our real deal legitimate version 2 Revoltech Deadpool. Oh nah, I can't remember what one's what. Shh. Nah, I'm only kidding, obviously. The real deal here is on the right, and I will say the real version is actually like a lot heavier than the fake knockoff version. I'm presuming that's to do with the quality of plastic. Most of the time on these bootlegs, the plastic is meant to be very cheap, and that's why it supposedly breaks a lot easier. I've never actually, touch wood, had a bootleg break on me, so just always be careful when you're handling any figure, you know what I mean? But yeah, there is definitely a difference in quality of plastic, and you can tell when you feel the figure, hold it, and even just looking at them. I think the one on the right does look that wee bit better, especially going back to the joints that I mentioned. You can see in the arm on the fake that they're a lot more orangey. The one on the right blends in a lot better, and the red matches in the arm and the joint there. Then going back to just talking about how the paint's just more dynamic on the real deal, I just always love how that looks in the middle of this real deal Deadpool Revoltech figure, the dark red running right down his chest. That's missing on the fake, and it is missed definitely, because I think it looks excellent and it really it pops, you know. I think the black's a lot deeper here in the real version as well. But when it comes to the sculpt, there are slight differences. I can't, you know, pinpoint it exactly, but I mean, standing them here, the one on the right, the real version, is standing taller than the fake, and it does look just a wee bit bigger. It looks a wee bit bulkier, which I think is nice. I do, well, maybe it's actually just because I've got those, I don't know. Yeah, the real version definitely looks better, but not by much, especially when you consider the massive price difference between these two. Once again, I'm always going to advocate for picking up the real version of the figure, but I'm just surprised at how good the bootleg is here. Now, of course, I did talk about the leg always popping off, so I do just want to see if I move this up right now. Yeah, it pops up. If I do the same with the bootleg, is that going to happen? Nope. And so there we have it for our 3 bootleg AliExpress knockoff action figures, and this video has been a lot longer than my average video, so I really appreciate it, guys. If you have made it to this point in the video, let me know down in the comment section below what you guys think of these 3 knockoff action figures. I have to say, I really have no complaints at all, considering that these are all between 10 to 15 bucks. These are better than I expected. I mean, each one of these, the sculpt is pretty damn spot on. They all have really accurate accessories, all nicely painted, and all the articulation is there. The plastic definitely feels a wee bit cheaper, and the paint definitely isn't as good as the legitimate counterparts, but that is to be expected. I've seen a lot of people talking about bootlegs recently, with the SH Figuarts Tobey Maguire bootleg making its way out there. But I do want to talk about bootlegs a wee bit here just at the end of the video, because I see a lot of people saying don't buy bootlegs, and I agree and I also disagree. I don't really know what a lot of people mean when they say don't buy bootlegs. I agree in the sense that I don't think you should ever really buy bootlegs over the original, and yeah, that is rich coming from me when I've got the Mafex and the Sentinel here. I don't have the legitimate counterparts of these figures, but at this point in my figure collecting, I'm not trying to boast, but I have so many action figures, man. Loads of standard Marvel Legends, and at this point I have loads of imports. I've got Mafex, Revoltech, SH Figuarts. I just pick up what I want to pick up, what I think's going to be fun, what I like the look of. And every figure that I have in the collection I really like for the most part, and if I don't like it I'll sell it on, I'll be honest on the internet, I'll talk about why I don't like it. But yeah, I like figures and I have a great time collecting them. I think there's a lot of integrity involved in picking up the original figure. You know, a team have worked really hard to come together and produce a figure that at the end of the day is an art piece, and we should all respect the original art going in with all the work and love involved. The original team involved should be the ones making the money and being respected. And I think I do a good job at staying away from bootlegs, but at the same time I really don't actually see what the problem is with a bootleg figure, as long as you are acknowledging that it is a bootleg, as long as you're not expecting something of the same quality as the original, then I don't see what the issue is. Bootlegs are never really gonna be as good as the original counterpart, and so if you're picking one up on AliExpress and you're only paying $10 for what should be an $80 to $100 figure, then you should definitely know what you're getting into. What's crazy with saying that though is in this situation where I've got the legitimate version 2 Revoltech Deadpool, which is just a pain in the ass where it falls apart and I really can't pose it, I'm genuinely probably better off with this $10 to $15 fake version that's in front of me. It's way more posable, it looks great for the most part. Yeah, the paint isn't there, it's a cheaper plastic, but it's got all the accessories and it's a great time. So why should I not buy the bootleg? Do you know what I mean? Like, why are people saying just don't buy bootlegs? That's not the full story here. I think there's a lot of valid reasons for picking up bootlegs, and if you are worried about, you know, the integrity part and scamming the original companies out of money, then put it this way, because SH Figuarts, Mafex, Revoltech, they're all releasing these highly priced action figures which sell out for the most part straight away. They will sell out in a matter of 2 to 3 weeks and then you can't get your hands on them, they're expensive. SH Figuarts, Mafex at that point have made their bag, they've made their money, to the point that a few months down the line, they re-release the figures, they reissue the figures, and guess what? They sell out again, they've made their money, they're happy. I really highly doubt they give a hoot about AliExpress making 10 to 15 bucks on a bootleg, because they don't have the product to sell. They've sold out. Once again, they've made all their money. So when someone comes along and copies that to sell for a lot cheaper, trust me, the SH Figuarts and Mafex aren't losing a wink of sleep. They've made their bag. And so what I really think it comes down to is just the individual. What looks fun to you? What figure do you want to have and have fun with? That is what it's down to. So if you see a bootleg Deadpool, if you see a bootleg Miles Morales, you think it looks like a lot of fun, it has a lot of interchangeable parts and accessories, and it's gonna be light on your wallet, then pick it up. Don't listen to people saying don't buy the bootleg. Why? What do you mean by that? You know, there's once again a lot of different reasons for picking up bootlegs. For me, it's the fun factor, and going back to that SH Figuarts Tobey Maguire bootleg that's on the way. Oh my god, man. That looks like a riot, and I cannot wait to take a closer look at that figure on the channel. And with that one, I have the legitimate version, I have SH Figuarts, I have the Sentinel figures. I really don't care if I'm buying a bootleg, as long as you're aware of what you're getting into, there's no problems. So with that wee rant over, let me know what you guys think of bootlegs down in the comments section below. While you're down there guys, if you could do me a massive favour and hit that like button. If you're new to the channel, then please hit that subscribe button. I'll leave the link to my Instagram in the description below, where I'm definitely posting pictures of this 3 up over there, and you'll get a better look of the interchangeable parts and whatnot. It'd mean a lot if you could hop on over to the Instagram page. I have a lot of fun over there. Feel free to hop on over to the YouTube page as well, check out the channel, see what other videos are up there. As I mentioned, there are a couple of other bootleg videos over there, but most of the time we're taking a look at the real deals. So yeah, it'd mean a lot if you could check out the channel page. With that being said guys, once again thank you so much for watching this video, this longer video than usual. It does mean a lot, and I'll catch yous on the flip flop later. Cheers.